We live in a world that glorifies motivation. Social media is flooded with hype videos, inspirational quotes, and get up and grind mantras. And while all of that may give you a spark, I want to tell you something different today, something real. Motivation is a powerful emotion, but it's fleeting. It comes in waves, often triggered by external factors, a compelling speech, an inspirational video, a personal crisis, or a sudden surge of energy. It's the spark that can get you off the couch, that makes you say, today's the day I change everything. But that spark doesn't last. One bad night of sleep, one unexpected setback, one moment of self-doubt, and motivation disappears just as quickly as it came. That's because motivation is based on how you feel, and our feelings are unstable. They're influenced by weather, mood, hormones, opinions, and countless uncontrollable factors. This is why relying on motivation is a trap. It will betray you when you need it most. Discipline, on the other hand, doesn't ask you how you feel. It doesn't wait for the stars to align or for you to be in the right mood. Discipline is a system. It's a structure built on routine, on repeated effort, on the commitment to act no matter what the day throws at you. When you train yourself to be disciplined, you separate action from emotion. You no longer need to feel inspired to take a step forward. You just do it because it's what needs to be done. Discipline is what keeps you going on the days you'd rather give up. It's what gets your shoes on and your workout started, even when you're exhausted. It's what opens the laptop to study or work, even when you're mentally drained. Motivation might get you to act once, but discipline makes sure you act again and again and again. Real progress isn't made on the days when you feel great. It's made on the days when you don't feel like showing up but do anyway. That's where the real difference is made. That's when you separate yourself from the majority who are still waiting to feel motivated. People who only act when they're motivated live in cycles of high energy followed by burnout, followed by guilt. They make short-term progress, then crash and start over again. Discipline breaks that cycle. It creates consistency, and consistency is the only path to mastery. It's easy to work hard when you're excited, but what about when you're bored? What about when progress is slow, when results aren't visible, when no one is clapping for you? That's when most people quit, not because they didn't want it, but because they depended on motivation to carry them. And motivation doesn't stick around during the boring, unglamorous, lonely parts of the journey. Discipline does. Discipline is showing up when there's no applause. It's making the right choice even when no one is watching. It's saying no to comfort and yes to growth repeatedly until it becomes second nature. Over time, discipline rewires your mind. It strengthens your ability to delay gratification. It turns difficult tasks into automatic habits. You begin to expect more from yourself, not because someone else told you to, but because you've raised your own standard. Discipline isn't loud. It doesn't look heroic, but it's there, quietly building strength, focus, and resilience. When you build your life on discipline, you no longer need to rely on mood swings or perfect conditions. You build momentum, not because of a temporary rush of passion, but because of a deep, steady commitment. You don't break your streak because it's hard. You keep going because it's hard. You trust the process even when it's uncomfortable. You build routines that align with your goals, and you follow them with consistency, not intensity. Because intensity fades, consistency compounds. So while motivation might be the match that lights the fire, discipline is the fuel that keeps it burning. One will get you excited, the other will get you results. Motivation is emotional. It comes from a feeling, an internal rush of inspiration, excitement, or urgency. You watch a powerful video, hear a moving story, or imagine a better version of yourself, and suddenly you're fired up. You feel unstoppable. That emotional charge makes everything seem possible. For a moment, the pain of the past and the weight of the future don't matter because you're riding the wave of a powerful internal state. But like all emotions, motivation is unpredictable. It's tied to your mood, your energy levels, your environment, even the weather. One day you wake up ready to conquer the world, the next you don't want to get out of bed. That's the problem with relying on motivation. It's fragile, it's reactive, and because it's emotional, it can vanish in the face of discomfort or difficulty. As soon as the feeling fades, the action fades with it. Discipline, by contrast, is rational. It's not driven by emotion, it's driven by decision. It doesn't ask, do I feel like doing this right now? It says, this is what needs to be done. Discipline operates from logic, structure, and purpose. It sees the bigger picture. It understands that feelings are temporary, but goals are long-term. Discipline doesn't need the emotional high that motivation thrives on. It shows up regardless of how you feel. It functions on routine, on commitment, on intention. While motivation might convince you to start, discipline is what ensures you continue. When the emotion wears off, discipline keeps you on track, not because it's exciting, but because it's necessary. The emotional nature of motivation means that it's often idealistic. It paints a vivid picture of how things could be without fully acknowledging the pain and effort it will take to get there. Motivation is often future-focused. It gives you visions of success, transformation, and reward. But those visions alone don't carry weight when life gets messy. The reality of hard work, setbacks, and repetition can quickly deflate that emotional high. That's where discipline steps in. Discipline is rooted in the present moment. It doesn't fantasize, it executes. It doesn't chase a feeling, it creates results through deliberate, repeated action.
Emotions can be misleading. They can push you to act too soon or hold you back out of fear. When you rely on motivation, you're at the mercy of your emotional state. You might want to train, but you feel tired, so you skip the workout. You might want to build a business, but you're discouraged by a bad week, so you quit. You might want to change your life, but you had a hard day, so you tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. That's how emotions sabotage consistency. Discipline, being rational, doesn't listen to excuses. It doesn't argue with discomfort. It acknowledges the difficulty and still chooses action. It prioritizes what's important over what's easy, what's right over what's comfortable. Discipline is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. And as it grows, it gives you something motivation never can. Control. Control over your time, your decisions, your direction. You no longer wait to be in the right mood because your actions aren't tied to moods. You act because it aligns with your values, your goals, your purpose. That rational mindset creates freedom. It frees you from being a slave to emotion. It teaches you how to act with consistency instead of intensity. Because while motivation might help you go hard for a week, discipline will help you stay committed for a year or a lifetime. Motivation makes promises. Discipline delivers. Motivation is impulsive. Discipline is intentional. One is about how you feel in a moment. The other is about who you're becoming over time. When you start relying on discipline instead of emotion, you take control of your growth. You no longer hope for the right mood. You build the right habits. You don't chase inspiration. You create momentum. You think clearly, act purposefully, and move forward, regardless of how you feel. Discipline builds identity in a way that no external label or temporary achievement ever can. Every time you make a disciplined choice, every time you get up early to work out, study when others are relaxing, practice your craft when no one is watching, you're casting a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. You're not just checking a task off a list, you're reinforcing a belief about yourself. Those choices start to form the foundation of your identity, not through what you say or hope, but through what you do consistently. You may start as someone unsure, someone trying to change, someone battling doubt, but with every act of discipline, that identity begins to shift. You stop seeing yourself as someone who wants to be, and start seeing yourself as someone who is. Actions speak louder than intention, and discipline is the loudest kind of action. You might tell yourself, I'm committed, but your brain believes what you repeatedly do. If you quit when it's hard, your mind learns that you're someone who backs down. If you push through discomfort, your mind learns that you're someone who finishes. This is how discipline builds internal credibility. You start trusting yourself. That trust compounds. You stop making promises you won't keep, and you stop needing motivation to move. You begin to identify as someone reliable, focused, and in control. Not because anyone told you so, but because you've proven it to yourself over and over. That's the difference between wishful thinking and true identity. Many people want to be successful, healthy, skilled, or confident. They read books, watch videos, and say the right things. But wanting and doing are not the same. Discipline is what bridges the gap. It turns vague desires into daily action. When you act with discipline, even in small ways, you align your behavior with your goals. Over time, those behaviors become part of who you are. You no longer need to tell yourself you're disciplined. You become a disciplined person. It's no longer something you force. It's something you live. This is why discipline is so much deeper than routines or schedules. It's about identity transformation. When you train yourself to follow through regardless of how you feel, you start viewing yourself differently. You walk with more confidence, not because of what you've accomplished, but because of what you consistently choose to do. That confidence doesn't come from others. It comes from alignment between your values and your behavior. And that kind of identity can't be faked. It's earned through discipline. Discipline also removes the gap between who you are and who you want to be. Most people carry a version of themselves in their mind that they wish they could become stronger, smarter, more resilient. But without consistent disciplined action, that version remains a fantasy. Discipline is the tool that turns that imagined version into your real self. It says, I may not be that person today, but every disciplined action brings me one step closer. And as those steps add up, your self-perception changes. You begin to carry yourself with the quiet pride of someone who knows they've earned their progress. Another powerful way discipline shapes identity is through self-respect. When you act in alignment with your higher standards, especially when it's hard, you gain respect for yourself. You stop seeking validation from others because you already know who you are. That's a kind of power that can't be bought or given. It has to be built. And discipline is the builder. It's not glamorous. It doesn't always feel good, but it works. It shapes your character in ways that go beyond short-term achievement. It rewires your self-image. When you repeatedly choose discipline over comfort, over convenience, over excuses, you're not just becoming more productive, you're becoming more you, the strongest version of you, the one who doesn't wait for the world to change, but decides to change themselves. Every disciplined choice says something about you. It's a statement, a reflection, a declaration. This is who I am. And over time, those statements become your identity, not a mask, not a role, but your actual lived truth. Results come from repetition, not inspiration. It's easy to feel inspired. A powerful speech, a moving story, a moment of clarity can light a fire inside you. That inspiration might push you to start something, to write the first page, go for your first run, apply for your first opportunity. But starting is only a fraction of the process. What truly matters is what you do after the inspiration fades, because it always fades. What's left behind is your ability to repeat, to show up, to do the work over and over again, even when it's no longer exciting. That's where real results come from, not from a single emotional high, but from a steady grind of repetition that builds mastery. Inspiration is loud, fast and emotional. Repetition is quiet, slow and disciplined. Most people chase the first and avoid the second. They wait for the right feeling, the right mood, the right timing. But those who truly grow, those who actually achieve what they set out to do, are the ones who commit to the process, regardless of inspiration. They understand that success isn't about intensity, it's about consistency. One incredible day of effort won't change your life. 100 average days of showing up will. Repetition turns your actions into habits, and habits are what drive outcomes. No great musician became great by playing once when they were inspired. No athlete reached the top by training only when they felt like it. No writer finished a book by writing on the good days alone. It's not the brilliance of a single effort that makes the difference. It's the compounding effect of countless repetitions. Day in, day out. Boring, sometimes, but powerful. Absolutely. Repetition builds rhythm. It builds muscle memory, both mentally and physically. The more you repeat something, the more natural it becomes. What once felt hard starts to feel automatic. That's the power of showing up consistently. Over time, it rewires your brain and your body to operate at a higher standard. Inspiration often creates unrealistic expectations. You imagine instant progress, big breakthroughs, fast results, but reality doesn't work that way. Reality rewards the patient, the persistent, the ones who understand that real change is a slow build. Repetition forces you to face the truth about how growth actually happens. It's not glamorous, it's not sudden, it's made of hundreds of small, often invisible actions that stack up over time. People might not see the effort you put in. They might not notice the early mornings, the late nights, the hours spent refining the basics. But that's where the magic happens, in the repetition, not the spotlight. When you rely on repetition, you take your focus off the outcome and place it on the process. That shift is crucial. Chasing results directly often leads to frustration, especially when progress is slow. But committing to repetition builds trust in the journey. You learn to let go of the need for instant reward and focus on what you can control. Your effort today, your execution right now. That kind of mindset is what separates amateurs from professionals. Amateurs wait for a spark. Professionals build systems and stick to them. They don't ask, do I feel like it? They ask what needs to be done, and then they do it again and again. Repetition also teaches humility. It reminds you that you're not entitled to progress just because you tried once or felt inspired. You have to earn it through repeated effort. You have to be willing to show up when it's hard, when it's boring, when it feels like nothing is changing. Because those are the moments that build resilience. Those are the moments that test your commitment. And those are the moments that stack together over time lead to real lasting results. You don't get better by doing something once. You get better by doing it 100 times and then 100 more. The truth is, repetition is the grind most people run from. It's unglamorous. It doesn't come with instant feedback, and it requires patience. But those who embrace it are the ones who rise above. They're the ones who stop chasing inspiration and start building habits. They don't rely on feelings. They rely on discipline. And through that discipline, through the repeated actions that no one sees, they slowly but surely create the results that everyone admires. You don't need to feel ready. You need to be consistent. That's a truth most people overlook, because we've been conditioned to believe that readiness is some magical state that must come before action. We tell ourselves that we'll start when we're more confident, when we're more experienced, when we've done more research, or when the timing is right. But the truth is, the perfect moment doesn't exist. Waiting to feel ready is often just a way to delay discomfort. It's a form of procrastination dressed up as preparation. And while you're waiting to feel ready, someone else is out there showing up consistently, learning through doing, failing forward, and making progress. The idea of readiness is comforting, because it makes us feel like we're in control. We think, once I'm ready, I won't be afraid. Once I'm ready, I won't make mistakes. But readiness doesn't remove fear or eliminate failure. Action does. Consistency is what transforms fear into familiarity and confusion into clarity. Every time you show up, even if you're unsure, even if you feel like an imposter, you gain a little more experience. You build momentum. You build confidence. Not because you felt ready, but because you acted anyway. Consistency is more powerful than readiness because it doesn't rely on emotion. It relies on commitment. You don't have to feel confident to be consistent. You don't have to be perfect to start. You just have to do the work again and again. And through that repetition, you become more capable. You become more prepared. Most people think they need to be good to begin, but the truth is, you begin to become good. Readiness is something that's built through consistency, not something you need beforehand. The people who succeed in anything, fitness, business, creativity, education, are not the ones who waited until everything lined up perfectly. They're the ones who started when it was messy, when they were scared, when they didn't have all the answers. And they kept going. They kept showing up, learning from each day, improving with every attempt. They became consistent first, and readiness came as a result. That's the paradox.
The more you wait to feel ready, the less prepared you actually become. But the more consistent you are, the more naturally ready you start to feel. Consistency doesn't mean doing everything perfectly every single day. It means showing up in a meaningful way, as often as you can, even when conditions aren't ideal. It's about honoring your commitment on the days when motivation is low and distractions are high. It's in those moments when it would be easy to quit, to skip, to push things to tomorrow, that you reinforce your growth. Every time you push through that resistance, you're telling your mind, this is who I am now. And that's far more powerful than waiting to feel ready. Feeling ready is fleeting. You might feel it today and lose it tomorrow. It's not dependable, but consistency is. Consistency is a decision, not an emotion. It doesn't rely on external circumstances. It's not based on whether you had a good night's sleep or whether people are cheering you on. It's internal. It's driven by your values, your goals, your sense of purpose. And when you live from that place, you stop needing to feel ready. You become the kind of person who acts, regardless of how you feel. Growth doesn't ask for your permission. It doesn't wait for you to be confident. It simply demands that you keep showing up. And over time, your actions become your identity. You stop questioning yourself because you've built a track record. You've earned your own trust. You don't have to hype yourself up to do the work. You just do it because it's who you are. That's what consistency builds. Not just progress, but character. Not just momentum, but mastery. And none of it requires you to feel ready. It only requires you to start and to keep going. Top perform.